Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Soleil Talk. I am being sponsored by Thinking Kingdom Media, and right now I am sitting here with hopefully future Congressman David Robinson II, and I just want to thank you for being here with me today. And I just want to start off by asking you, who are you for those who don't know who you are?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me here this evening. I'm David Robinson. I'm born and raised here in Columbia, South Carolina. I've come from a single parent home. Also ended up being a single parent myself, raising four children. So I know the ins and outs about how to live in the economy when you're a single parent. And also, I was able to, though I had to cut some of my dreams short, being a single parent, I was able to start my own business, entrepreneurship, driving trucks, and own two trucks. That was a way I can provide for my family. So also, I ended up joining the military because of what happened in 9/11. I knew it was something that I can do for our country, and that was to drive trucks for the Army. So I gave up my business to do that as well, to join the military, to give them something I had, this country something that I had skills in. But of course, I never did drive trucks for the military, but definitely been there in Afghanistan to fight for our country, our freedoms, our way of life. From Columbia, South Carolina. Like I said, born and raised, and now I'm running for Congress.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
By the way, what inspired you to run for Congress? How did you get into politics?
Well, being a constituent, we're subject to everything when it comes to our politicians as well as our economy. But I had an unfortunate incident in our family, and that is my son. He's a geologist, born and raised here as well, Columbia, South Carolina. Went missing out in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona, and in 2021, and just the fact of searching for my son for those 3 years out there in that desert diligently. I mean, just 49 weeks of desert searches, 35,000 acres of land, just volunteers of people, strangers. I have grown a passion, because I definitely was fighting for my son, but I have grown a passion to help other Americans that when I found many of them that was coming out to help me was having missing loved ones of their own. The other thing is being out there working so hard. I've learned a lot about the whole general nation, what's happening in this country. We have over 200,000 people that go missing every year in this country. We have 3,000 of which are going missing every day in this country. As we speak right now, someone has gone missing in this country. 2,000 of which are children. 40% of all missing cases are people of color. Though we only make 13% of the population. So just learning all those facts, I knew I had to do something about it. I'm just a person that when I see something need to be done, I just go ahead and do it.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
This is just to add really quickly. I wanted to ask, what was he doing in the desert in Arizona? If you can fill us in on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm asking you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, my son, Daniel Robinson is his name, graduated from the College of Charleston, South Carolina. Graduated, he's one of the few geologists, I can say that up front, but he graduated from College of Charleston with honors, decided to take his career, his path in life out into Arizona. He landed in Phoenix, Arizona, where he landed his first job with a company called Matrix New World. It was also called Matrix Southwest Groundwater. They hired him on as a field geologist, hydrogeologist, and what he does is go out to various well sites all across this country. All across Arizona, and his job is to go out to assess groundwater because Arizona is a desert state, so they rely heavily on groundwater and also the Colorado River. So his job is to make sure that those ground water can produce enough water to sustain communities. That's part of his job, and to make sure they can produce that water, recharge itself after 100 years. So that's the science of it. And he was out there on June the 23rd of 2021 doing the job. He was assigned to two well sites to work with another one single individual out there in the Sonoran Desert where he went missing. So I've been looking for him since.
So I know you've been doing a lot of private investigation on your own. So what made you decide to hire a PI to look into this?
Well, one thing is when you have a missing loved one, the first thing we do is go out and search help from law enforcement. That's just obvious. Before that, we also do our due diligence. But too often times families, we don't get that urgency that we need. In Daniel's case, for instance, we haven't had any law enforcement real participation into locating my son. So, of course, I had to take matters in my own hand. Like I said, again, started my own searches out there, grassroots search without the help of law enforcement, started my own investigation from day one. And then when law enforcement was being active in Daniel's case, they gave me some things that wasn't right. First, I can give you an example. My son, after he went missing on June the 23rd, almost 30 days later, his vehicle showed up further in that Sonoran Desert. It was in the 20-foot ravine lying on the side. And according to law enforcement, everything that was on his body, from underwear down to his socks, was lying 3 feet away from the vehicle in a pile. So any average person will even look at that and say, hey, something is not right, you can look at the scene and you look for blood. If you can look at just normal accidents you see every day around your neighborhood, and there's some form of injury. But according to law enforcement, no injuries, no blood found in the vehicle. They don't see foul play happening. But they did say they believe he had a brain injury. But the whole point of saying is the assessment of law enforcement. Their idea that my son wanted to disappear, he set all that up himself just because he wanted to be away from his family, join a monastery, become a monk. Those things are not typical. You don't see too many black monks, first of all. The other part is my son is a family-oriented person. The scene itself cries for investigation. It cries for forensics work, and law enforcement wasn't willing to do that. So, of course, I had to get a second opinion, and I decided to hire a private investigator.
Okay. And on the vehicle, if I remember correctly, did they find other paint? Was it other paint on the car? And he tried to, the ignition was cranked more than 46 times, or about 46 times.
That's correct.
So what do you think about that? And they didn't do any DNA testing in the car or on the clothing?
Yes, I want to make sure everybody has this clear. Law enforcement hadn't contributed anything to my son. So everything you hear about any information about my son's vehicle or his disappearance, it came from my investigation along with my private investigator. We found the 11 additional miles on the vehicle. We found the 46 initial cycles. We found the red transfer paint that you were speaking of. We also found the time of date that it happened around 1 o'clock, when the airbags first deployed. Yes, there was no forensic done on the scene. In fact, I have a conversation with Detective Biffin, is his name, during time at Buckeye Police Department, telling me the reason why he felt that there was no need to do any forensics, he felt. And so, of course, to date, law enforcement haven't done but one part of the forensics, and that's something I asked for in the meeting. I asked for fingerprint. I've been a novice, didn't know what to ask for at the time. They said they were going to do the fingerprinting, but they ended up doing a swabbing of the steel wheel shifter and door handle, and they feel satisfied and justified. I'm still pushing harder to get the forensics done completely. They have to date even test what they say they've done. And the other part is everybody know when airbags deploy, airbags, when they hit you, they take some form of DNA off of you. We need those airbags tested. I have those things in my possession. And also, we also know that when all the airbags deploy, that signifies somebody else is in the vehicle, because, we know how the passenger seats work. If somebody over, I believe, 40 to 60 pounds, then the airbag deploy. So we want to know who the other person was in the vehicle. So we need to know all these answers. So yes, I'm pushing for those as well.
Do you believe that his car was staged?
I do.
In the area?
I do. And that was the evidence that we found. It was the staging part was the damage didn't match. Again, my private investigator that I hired, he's an accident reconstructionist. The damage on the vehicle didn't match the terrain. the ransomware transfer paint is nothing red in the desert that the vehicle could have came in contact with. You'll see in the red cactuses running around, but things like that. So we have those the information, and of course, as well as the data on the vehicle itself. So those type things, we say yes, the vehicle was staged, and not only that, we also have the eyewitness of the person who actually found the vehicle. He's a rancher who was there on July the 17th. He's a rancher, cattle rancher. He was in that very ravine where the vehicle was found 2 days prior, looking for his cattle. The vehicle wasn't there. 2 days later, he reported that vehicle because he found it. Something that law enforcement refusing eyewitness, they'll say he found it, but wouldn't put it in a report to say he said it wasn't here 2 days prior. So we have all of those things in combination. Yes, it's a stage event. Yes.
Yeah, I do find it pretty odd that they didn't call you when they claimed they found it. I think the day before or that evening because he didn't want to wake you up.
Yes. The rancher who reported it, his assessment was that the first thing law enforcement said to him when they came on the scene was, "Do not let them alert the media and don't tell the family." That's the first thing. But yes. Though I was out there for almost every day of the week, conducted my searches every weekend with hundreds of volunteers on the ground. Law enforcement didn't call me when the vehicle was found. They called me over 24 hours later that morning, the next day, and said they found the vehicle. And of course, I'm going to be upset about that. But yes, that's what he had said to me on the phone, that we didn't want to disturb your sleep, like I'm sleeping. So yeah, a lot of things that's really, I say fishy about my sons when it comes in terms of law enforcement.
Definitely. Yeah, it is pretty fishy. I was just about to ask a question.
Given the situation or the circumstances around these disappearances and the numbers, if we had to assess where in the heck or why in the heck are all these people disappearing, what is your assessment? And I'm pretty sure this is probably connected to the reason why you're running for office. What would be the value of stealing a human, right? And I'm only assuming that that's what you concluded, because I'm not certain, but I think that's what I've found and what I've seen is that there's value in stealing people, right? Sex trafficking being one thing, and you can you can probably see that or understand that, but then there's things about organ stealing organs and stuff like that. The black market and dark stuff like that. This is probably incredibly dangerous. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm asking what is that what you assess that's what the value is in stealing a human?
Well, yeah. Well,
you can look at it.
Yes. One thing is, just being on the search for my son, I have learned a great deal when it comes to things that can hamper law enforcement, but also at the same time what causes many people to still remain missing, for instance, and some of the reasons. My son went missing in the Sonoran Desert, like I said, but Phoenix itself as well is a high human trafficking corridor for the Seminole cartels and some of these others. Also, those areas are heavily dealing with a lot of drug trafficking through there. So they oftentimes utilize people as mules, to make a long story short. So we looked into a lot of those. I had an investigator to look into, he's a separate investigator. He's a different type, and I never met him really public, so nobody would actually know who he is. But he looked into that. He handles that type of thing. He deals with that kind of world. So some of those things are out there here in the country when it comes to human trafficking. When it comes to domestic violence is another form of why people go missing. But it's so many elements out there, and also organ harvesting. Those things are actually happening. So we would definitely want to go out and look for, as a person running for Congress, my goal is to make sure we're doing those researches to find out exactly how all of these things are linked together that we already know about. The other part is to get the U.S. Marshal involved, meaning that, law enforcement, our local law enforcement agencies are not equipped, and some of them are not even willing to really handle missing person cases the way they should, especially when it comes to people of color. So the appetite is not really there. So I'm going to make sure I'm doing my part to push that issue. This is something that is taken, again, I'm saying 40% of all missed cases are people of color, though black people only make 13% of the population. So we want to make sure that we're actually treating missing person cases just like we would, for instance, the opioid crisis. I want to make sure this is actually a crisis that we are working on when it comes to the federal government, putting their full hands into why we have that many people going missing every year. So all of those things have those elements, and when it comes to those reasons why people go missing every year.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know he was working out there. So that makes me think, were there any other people of color that he was working with? Because I know the day he went missing, he met up with a coworker. And I don't know if you can really talk about this on camera and how we can blur it out if you can. But do you think there's like any possibility that that coworker could have done anything to him for like to put him on the market?
Well, when it comes to my son's case, I don't rule anything out. I don't rule anybody out. I have a lot of suspects, but we have a lot of evidence as well. Anytime you're looking at any case, you always scrutinize the first anybody that last seen that person or last spoke with that person. You have to scrutinize that story. You got to vet it deeply. Law enforcement didn't do that either. Law enforcement decided to take his word as gospel and just go along with it. But when you match, for instance, the last person that my son, I want to back up a little bit. The last person that my son went to go meet out there in that Sonoran Desert, his name is Ken. It's wide known because he's done interviews. But he worked for a different company. It's a company called Weber Waterworks. And what they do is drill in the ground, drill to these groundwaters to put well sites in. And my son was going out there to meet him, just one sole person. So the story is always, the whole narrative has always been based on that one story, that one point of view, though his story do not match evidence. When I say it don't match evidence, it don't match the timestamp on my son's phone records. No one went to go see if he was actually at the place that he said, like law enforcement, to check his cell phone pings, where he was located, moving around that desert that day. So those things haven't been done by law enforcement. So we definitely can't bring some valid validity to his story. And what I'm saying is, I'll give you an example. His name is Ken, of course. He said my son met him on Sun Valley Parkway. It's a road that's outside the Sonoran Desert. My son, he talked for a brief second before they went into the desert. They only went 1 mile west and 2 miles north to get to this well site. And once they got there, it was at 9 o'clock that morning. He said that at 9:15, my son waved to him after a conversation, waved to him, got in his vehicle, and that's when he was never seen again. But when you look at Daniel's phone record, it shows that Daniel made a phone call to him he made a phone call to my son, left a voicemail, I think it was around 8 o'clock that morning, leaving a voicemail that states that he shouldn't come because of some fueling issue. The second thing was I did see my son tried to call him from his phone. That's what the record shows. Not saying that was actually my son doing it, but definitely the phone was calling his phone. The phone call was unanswered. Then he called my son's phone again, and it wasn't answered. But my son called again, he didn't answer. And then the part that got me the most was that my son actually sent a text message. It was around near to 9 o'clock that morning to ask for directions. He didn't know how to get there. And then Ken did not answer that text message back, right? But the kicker is that Ken said he left that well site at 9:15. He told 2 officers that. You always go with that first story when it's fresh in their mind and everything, according to the Buckeye Police Department's report, and also what they told me when I asked while I was traveling up there. He said my son left at 9:15, but the phone record shows that my son actually reached back out to him and called. The last call that he ever made to date was 9:28. Well out there, 9:15, and it was only for a brief couple seconds, so it wasn't a conversation type deal. So long story short with that, those things don't match what his assessment was. But once we start speaking about certain things, his story seemed to change. He tried to change it was around 9:30 when we got to the well site. So certain things like that, you got to look at it. Also the fact that Ken changed his stories. He told law enforcement one thing, and it's almost like him and law enforcement rehearsed it together because the second night my son went missing, when I first heard his story from law enforcement itself, when I met Ken in person on the my son went missing on 23rd. Law enforcement told me his story on the 24th. But when I made it to Phoenix on the 26th, I talked to Ken face to face. And when I talked to him, he said exactly the way Officer Cruz said it to me on that phone call. So I'm like, wow, so it's got to be true. That's what I'm thinking in my head at the time. But I'm sitting there with my daughter as a witness and also another young lady. And I'm taking notes, everything he's saying. I had my notepad and everything. And he changed his story. He started adding things like, I stayed left to the tracks. I knew I had to do this because law enforcement gonna come look and this thing gonna go national. That's what he said. I went to follow the tracks out west and I went through the gate and I went a mile away. And if you listen to the story, it leads you to where the vehicle is gonna be found. I went another mile, got up on a embankment on the top of it to see if I could see him from afar. I started painting rocks of red paint. That could be where the transfer paint came from, but I started spray painting stuff with red paint so law enforcement know where to come. It was things like that I gave law enforcement, and you would never hear about it in the report because it don't fit that narrative. And I have a reason for saying it don't fit the narrative that law enforcement wants to portray. I kind of look at those details and I know what happened. It's just that for me, and I'm smiling because I know for me, it's the kind of father I am and how I am about my children and my family. They just got the wrong person. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I know that's right. So we know that law enforcement, they're not really equipped to take on missing persons cases, but why do you think they why do you think they don't take missing black people as serious as missing white people?
Well, it's sad to say we always had a problem with that type thing in our country. It's no secret that, they call us marginalized communities, for instance. They call us minorities, things like that. And, a lot of times when it was not happening to you, you don't want to take it as seriously. So when it happens to people of color, I tend to think that, hey, look, maybe there's a runaway. We hear things like that. They make these excuses, say they are runaway. Maybe we don't love our children as much as what I would have to feel, just being a black male. Why law enforcement would not put the emphasis on there, I could not say. I can't read the mind of a person. All I can definitely see what the results are. We already know there's a thing called white women syndrome, for instance. When it was a pretty white, blonde-headed, blue-eyed female, pretty female, they would get national attention very quick in cases like this, without question. But when it comes to Black Americans, again, the disparities are there. That's why we have the Black and Missing Foundation, for instance. The only, and I want to say this beside the Daniel Robinson Foundation now, but the only Black foundation that's out there for people of color to help us find us. And it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way that we have been seeing for a long time. That's systemic racism as well as the not really putting that emphasis on trying to find people of color.
And the Black and Missing Foundation, that's actually how I found out about Daniel's case. I saw his missing persons flyer on there, and I followed them because I think they were the ones who showcased the show Find Our Missing for missing Black people, and my cousin was actually on there. And so I do have family who has been impacted by this personally too, and I just want to say I'm sorry
Yeah,
that
I'm
you
sorry
have
to
to
hear
go through this. And I do appreciate you coming on this show to talk to me about this, something so personal. But my next question would be for you is, what would the U.S. Marshals do? What's the difference between the U.S. Marshals and regular law enforcement?
Well, it's a federal thing, and I think the federal government have a lot of responsibility when it comes to our American citizens going missing. So they definitely need to take charge. When it comes to drugs coming across the border, when it comes to, we saw what happened in, I can't think of the case now, but it was the cult members when the U.S. Marshal had to go in and arrest some people. So when it comes to the high crimes, and the reason why I say U.S. Marshal plays a big part on this, because we do know, and that's why I say I want to have those studies done, because then we can link all these things together, which they mostly are: human trafficking, drug runs, and things like that. They handle those type cases. That's not something typical law enforcement does. We have, domestic violent cases or certain things that goes on in the community. Law enforcement handle. And so it shouldn't just be law enforcement alone. The federal government have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to why our Americans going missing the way we are, especially if it's organ harvesting and things like that. That is government need to get involved. That's type stuff. So we definitely want to make sure that we got the right law enforcement agencies, not just the FBI, but the other ones that actually can get the job done.
So if elected as congressman, what are some other changes that you would like to implement?
Well, when it comes to missing person cases, one thing that I really, the first thing that when I was deciding to run for office is because, like I said, I grew that passion to help all Americans when it comes to missing Americans, but typically it's people of color. Again, we want to make sure that we show those disparities there and solve those disparities. One thing for sure is working with senators out there in Arizona. I work with a lot of them, and what we're trying to do is craft in a sense a legislation to make it easier for families to get data that we need. Here it is 2024 now, but at the end of 2021, we have technologies that's there. And a lot of those technologies are not being utilized. And you got to ask yourself the reasons why. And what made me feel this way is because, the first thing we did is our due diligence. And we talked to law enforcement, the first thing you do is say, hey, this is 2021. Let's see these cell phone pings. Let's see these. My son has we thought it was an OnStar, but it's called a Uconnect. He has a Uconnect in his vehicle. Those things are two devices that actually tracks your locations, right? They have location things on it. We also wanted to make sure that things like the cameras are utilized, because I know, if it was a bank robbery tonight, this afternoon before the bank closed, you best believe they're gonna track that money. They can find out when that person probably left their front door, where they went from there, what they ate for lunch that day, and they'll track that money. But somehow, when it comes to missing person cases, they say, "Oh, the cameras wasn't on this, so we didn't have this," and that's what I found in my son's case. Also, I found that when it came to his cell phone pings, the delay was, "Hey, look, we cannot get that because we don't deem it as a criminal case, and a judge will not give you a warrant. You have to have a warrant for that to get that kind of data from telecommunication companies. Without that warrant, we won't be able to get that information because it's not a criminal case." The third part is, in my son's case, they were saying that first they said, yeah, we can utilize that to find out where his vehicle is located. Then they said, we couldn't get the information we called Uconnect. We couldn't get information because they said it came out with some all zero grids or something. I said, what that mean? First they've been honest. They said, well, the person said somebody tampered with it, the device, or somebody took the battery loose. To make a long story short, to make it malfunction. And then they came back and said, no, it's because he didn't have a subscription. So let me make a long story short. Those data are there. And so one thing to this date, my son, we don't have cell phone ping data. when I was able to have meetings with all the telecommunication companies from Sprint, T-Mobile, all of them. We had this big meeting about my son's case and trying to get that data with the senators. And one thing they said, of course, was the warrant. Other part is now they're saying even if we want it, we don't have it because we have a retention policy of 30 days before the data's gone forever. And two things I heard that day was untrue to me. We know the data never ever disappears. You know, if they want to get you on something on your computer, for instance, you can try to do what you want to that computer unless you totally destroy it. They can pull up data. It's not going. You just don't have that hook to retrieve it. When you push the delete button on your computer, for instance, to delete any data, it's still on your computer. You just don't have that linkage to get you to that data no more because you deleted that linkage to get there, something off your computer. It's still there. So what I'm saying is the data's still there, but it's not willing to give it to you. And so after a long turmoil with the telecommunication companies, they hide behind their privacy. Well, we have this privacy policy, and then they come with wild things like, hey, you know, we was to give this data to a family. Maybe it's talking about me. It could be a family member want to harm the other family member, and we don't want to be responsible. Now we give them the data, and now they know where they at, and they go do something to them. It's ridiculous, wild things they come up with. So what I told them, to make a long story, is that I'm coming through your back door, and back door means running for Congress and do it myself. I implement legislation that I plan I'm putting together now, but plan to implement and get people to join in, co-sponsor and get it passed in Congress. And that's what I'm working on. That'll be one of my first things I'm doing in Congress is that.
Okay. So I'm not going to lie. Please don't judge. I didn't know what the role of a congressman was probably until yesterday.
Oh,
Yesterday or
yeah, that's
Monday.
okay. A lot of people, yes. If you're not into politics, a lot of people don't, yes.
So for people who are like me, can you explain the role of a congressman, please?
Well, you know, I'm not a politician either. This is my first time running for office. But I can tell you, and I get a lot of it from, I'm going to tell you how old I am, but we had this thing called Schoolhouse Rock. They used to come on every morning before we watch our cartoons. Yes. We had to learn about that kind of stuff as kids. I wish they do it now, but you know, a House of Representatives, for instance, it's called the People House, of course. It consists of people like the House members, representatives from each district in your state. Each state have districts, right? They make up their districts. Each district have a representative for that district, and it's a people's representative, meaning that the way I'm understanding how the Constitution is written for that is to have the people actually choose their representative, somebody that can go up into the People House and represent that district. And like I say, each state has so many districts, they get so many representatives, and to be able to craft the laws and things that related to everyone in your communities, your district, your state. And so collectively, everybody can kind of understand what everybody in the whole entire country needs in those areas. And so I can go, because I probably can go really far the long way around, but what a congressperson actually does is to craft laws. So every law that we have, whether it's stop at the stop sign and things like that, I'm using an example, came from some type of legislation that had been passed, right? So you create craft laws for us to live by, you could say, and want to make sure that those laws are pretty much representative of what people were asking for. For instance, a lot of people say, hey, I hate to bring this up like this, but a lot of people who say, hey, I don't believe in abortion, but at the same time, they say, we don't want nobody to have an abortion. For instance, I use an example. You look at the masses of people who all support it. I definitely use these polls, but I'm really not a poll person. But you can tell how many people are actually for abortion rights and those who are not. So if you have the majority of people wanting free access to abortion care and things like that, that's where you try to make sure you craft these laws. And I believe that's how Roe v. Wade came about, for instance. But then you have those who may say, No, we do not want that. We don't want Roe v. Wade, but we ought to see what happened with that. But we are there to craft those legislations for everybody to live by, and also to be the voice for that person, those people in your district. Also to make sure federal dollars, like my job would be for my district, to make sure those federal dollars are actually coming into my district. For instance, like we have $800 million allocated for my district, for Congressional District 2 for education. But yet we can look at some of the schools in the marginalized, what they say marginalized, the black communities are lacking those fundings, right? You say, okay, why we don't have these STEM programs? Why we don't have certain things? And these are coming from the federal government. And so what's happening is a person like me, I'm a Democrat, so a person like me would put stipulations on that money, meaning that, these money need to be utilized the way it was intended for. Because a lot of times, what happened, the money come in from the federal government, and then, for instance, I hate to say it this way, but a Republican House representative in the state house and senators, they'll take that same money and put it to these funds and create these other programs that really going to benefit the private schools or the white schools or, in this area of town, but then leaving the rural communities behind and so they only get a limited amount of funding. So we got to make sure that not only when they were just receiving the money, a person like me need to be like an overseer in a sense to make sure that these folks in the state legislature is actually utilizing the money the correct way. So that'll be another part of my job as well. And also, of course, national security when it comes to dealing with things, laws that is created when it comes to dealing with our foreign policies and things like that. So you got to remember that Congress owns the money. So the President of the United States say, hey, I'm going to do this. We have Kamala Harris coming in, for instance. I plan to lower the prescription costs for all drugs. But we got to be able to pay for certain things that she said she wanted to do, right? So that's why it's important that we have people, first of all, House members that actually can cater to the things that she wanted to pass. Because if not, she could say it all day till her face turned blue. It would never happen. If she's going to do certain things by executive, what the word I want to use, she could do it from an executive way, but it's not a law. There's nothing permanent about which executive action is not permanent. But the laws that the Congress bills are permanent, and also we have the money to pay for these things. The executive branch don't. So what I'm saying, so it's a lot of that. It is so much detail to that, but yes, there's a lot to it. I probably gave you all around the corner and didn't really give you a full answer that you're looking for, but yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. It helped me understand a little better. But just to be clear, so the bills that the president tried to pass, would it go through you guys? Or?
Yes. So let's say president come with an idea and say, hey, this is what my legislation, this is what I would like to see happen. Again, the president don't make laws. So what happens is the president send it out to Congress, say, this is what I want to see happen. It takes people like myself, senators and actually the House to write these laws, craft these laws up, how those laws are going to be implemented. We discuss and have debates about it and all kind of stuff that goes on to crafting those laws. And then once we get the laws together, we go up for a vote. If it passes, it goes to the Senate. The Senate have to make a vote on it. And if they pass the Senate, then it comes right back to the House. So the House can take it up to the president to get it signed into law. The president do have to sign into law now. I can't say that. But as in laws created, the president can say, hey, I want this to happen. It takes the Congress to actually create those laws for that situation, yes.
Okay. Just one more question about the congressman role. So is that where the electoral votes come from?
The electoral,
when people vote for
now,
the president?
that's the part that you're going to get me on that one. The Electoral College, you're speaking of Electoral College, right? Mm-hmm. The Electoral College, I don't have a clear understanding about the Electoral College, so I probably would not be fit on this one to answer that. I apologize, that's my phone. I apologize, I don't know if y'all can hear that, I apologize.
It's okay.
Yes, I can turn it off if you need to. But yes, I'm not clear abreast of that, so I'm gonna skip on that one for right now.
Okay. I just wanted to ask because I know someone was trying to explain to me that I guess that each state has representatives and that's
Right.
what makes up the electoral college. But okay, I'll just have to do more research. Okay.
Yeah, but I know the electrical. I can tell you the electoral college. It has nothing to do with Congress itself, in the aspect of you don't see like, for instance, I wouldn't be an electric college person.
Okay.
I know, like you said, they come from the states, and then they collect those votes. Like they have the majority of the votes for this one person, for instance, and then that's supposed to be representative of that one person's votes that came from the state. And then it goes into for certification for Congress, because that's the first job I would do after I win on you get sworn in. That's the first job, is to certify who won out of Kamala and Trump. So President VP Harris and Trump. So that would be my first duty, to certify that election.
So how would you certify that?
Because they put that seal, they seal that document, and they have so many electoral college votes, and whoever had the majority, wins. That's how that works. It comes from all the states. It's supposed to come from all the states. So, and one thing about it is, a lot of people don't want that electoral college. Of course, you already know that, because the popular vote should be the one that wins. But that's something that I guess that's got to be amended or something in the Constitution. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, just to cut out for a second, L. So for the question about are there any personal or cultural influences that have had a profound impact on your career, do you feel like you already answered that?
So, really quick, Congressman.
Yes.
That we know that there's a potential that we might get the first black female president coming up here, and I know that there's a community of black men that feel like the economy is just really bad, and it was much better when Donald Trump was president. I know that there has to be a level as a congressman, there has to be a level of agreement. It's very important that we know who our congressmen are. So when you think about your competition, or I guess in this election right now, are you competing with someone else in this role that you're trying to take on? And I guess when you think about your competition, how are you feeling? Like, is it important to you that you know how they're doing right now, or even be able to talk to what they're not doing, or whatever the case may be? Like, how do you feel about your competition right now in running for this role right now?
Well, I want to address the the feel that we may have when it comes to with the black male vote.
Yeah.
They'll say, hey, look, we had the first black female president, that, the economy was better under Trump. I personally would disagree with the economy being better, but I can say that, I think the problem is I don't want to say the word communication, but definitely the understanding of everything that happened, and sometimes we kind of forget the way things are happening. But even with that, I want to say that everybody have their legitimate concerns, and they definitely do. They have their legitimate concerns. I apologize. Have their legitimate concerns.
No, it's okay.
Okay, I hope I didn't mess that up. But everyone has their legitimate concerns when it comes to what's happening in our economy. And, everybody's experience is different, right? And so when I say everybody's experience is different, we all collectively are subject to everything that's happening in our country when it comes to our implementation of laws and things like that. But we all experience those things different. Everybody's households are different. And so what I say, different from what my opponent has done for over 23 years now.
23 years?
It's been 23 years, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
My opponent, Joe Wilson, been in office for 23 years, going on 24 years, is that representation matters. And if you look at my entire platform, it's about representation. I represented this country, for instance. I thank him for his service too. He joined the military as well. But I represented this country, almost lost my life for it. I realized that the representation means something, meaning that when I first got to Afghanistan, for instance, I knew right then I joined something bigger than myself. I'm not representing a Democrat, though I've been the Democrat before I knew I was a Democrat. My mom was a Democrat. I'm not representing just Black America. I'm not representing, anybody but everybody in this whole country. I mean, everything that we stand for. I do know when I raise my right hand, I raise that to defend our Constitution and our way of life, defend everybody. I would say in a facetious way like I used to say it when I was in the military, but it's proper not to say this the way I do. But when I say I'm representing everyone, I'm representing the good, the bad, and the ugly in this country, meaning that we have whatever our goods is, we have here, our bads is, we're over there fighting for that, right? We can have our own reason, but ultimately we're there fighting for our country. So what we haven't had in Congressional District 2, for instance, is true representation when it comes to everybody. Everyone is left behind in certain areas depending on where you're from. If you're from Joe Wilson's community, not everybody play golf with him, and everybody's in his backyard. But if you was to go to his office and you look at the things, not only the things that he do, but what he say, he do not represent everyone. For instance, I can use an example. Though Joe Wilson may stand up and say, hey, look, I voted for funding for the HBCUs. Thank you for doing that. But you saying that in the same breath or voting against the hate crimes bill. Don't you know we're the only one of the only 2 states that don't have a hate crime bill in law in this state and in the country. Though we're the first state to have seceded from the union, but we're now going to be the last one to actually get a hate crime bill. Though we had a senator got murdered down, and many others down in Charleston. And so what I'm saying is this guy, he's voted against that. He also voted against numerous times to destroy the Affordable Care Act that the marginalized communities need the most, the rural areas need the most. So it's things like that, and to make it even personal for me, a person that just known that he actually, I never met him in life, but to know that he's actually running for office. The thing that bothers me the most for the primary, a guy who's been in my district, never met Joe Wilson. I now understand why he never came around my neighborhood. Didn't know he exists as a person. Didn't know we had a representative named Joe Wilson for 23 years. What I have found is during the primaries, we had not really debates, but forums. And the forums came from the NAACP forums. They had 2 of them, 2 big ones. When I say big ones, they had candidates, all the candidates come in, because they don't discriminate on which party. Republicans, independents, and Democrats in one forum. They did this twice since I've been running for office now. And Joe Wilson seat next to me, empty each time. Because what he says to our community is, I don't need those people. I don't need their vote. Their vote don't matter. I don't have to earn their vote. They can vote for me. Yes, thank you. And a lot of people don't know. I also found, and I'm going to make sure I fact check this so you can check this for me. But I didn't know Joe Wilson was a Democrat at first. He ran as a Democrat when the person before him died in office. He had a special election. He ran as a Democrat, got that Democratic vote, and then turned Republican. And he's been Republican since. So what I'm saying is, it's things like that to say, hey, look, we can give you a little something to make you feel like you should change your vote. But what I say for people of color, when you're out there and you say, hey, look, this economy was better under Trump, I think the misconceptions come from, I think a lot of people is looking at the stimulus money. Right. And they don't realize when you go look at and sometimes we forget a lot of stuff been going on. We had to deal with COVID. We had to deal with so much things. The economy was going downhill. As President Obama's economy doing very great, and it'll start going down here because of COVID. And we need something to stimulate the economy. And like I said up front, when you're stimulating the economy like I plan to do, not what Joe Wilson had been done, I'm going out to make sure that we're standing up for our middle class, our working class, and our entrepreneurships of business that's actually trying to come up together. We need to take our money and dump into these sectors because that's how you make the economy roll faster. And they know this. That's where they gave the stimulus money because the economy was going down and they need to get that economy up really quick. So they had to get the stimulus money out there, but it did not come from Donald Trump. It came from Nancy Pelosi and the House members who came up with those stimulus. And but it started from the President Obama era, and it started coming over for those stimulus to try to boost the economy. Donald Trump tried to press against it, but one thing he said when they showed him the truth about that, he said, "I want to make sure my name is on it. Put my name on these checks, so when people look at it, say, oh, it's coming from Donald Trump." No, it is not. And so what I'm saying is, what people need to understand is that just go do a little bit. If you go research these things really deeply, you'll find out a lot of truth when it comes to that. But I can tell you, we got to look at the long term. I know we have some problems. We have a lot of problems
with marketing, though, because that was the thought.
Right. Yes.
The check came from Donald Trump.
Of course, he got his name on it. Of course, he put his name on. He put his name on people's buildings. You already see that already. So,
marketing.
Right. He's a marketer. He's been doing it. If you look at some of the buildings he have currently, it say Donald Trump. That's not his buildings. He's a brand. He put his name on things. Right. And that works for him for many years. But the thing is, what I'm saying when it comes to our communities of color, and I have to say because I'm a black man, so I care about those things. I care about our communities. I care about my mother. And we haven't seen the things that we need in our communities. And I want people to know, if you're watching from South Carolina, one thing you need to know about Congressional District 2, 6, 1, every district in the state, is that when we start seeing problems in our community and we'll blame the Democrats, we can't. The Democrats haven't had power in the state since the 90s. The Republicans have a super majority, so people should know this. You should look these things up. They had some super majority, no matter what. Why do you think we don't have a hate crime bill? Why don't you think people walk around with guns on their hips now? It don't come from the Democrats. It comes from the Republicans. They have the super majority in the House since the 90s. No matter what the Democrats say, unless they've been nice to the Democrats, nothing we do would pass in the state. Nothing we would do. So if you got problems with the money, you got problems with this, you cannot blame a Democrat. You want to say federal dollars not coming into the state, you got to look at Joe Wilson, for instance, Congressional District 2, who's blocking some of those things to actually come down to the communities that need it the most. So those things matter. So when you say who are you going to vote for, make sure everything's consistent. That's why I always say vote down ballot. Because if a president say, hey, I intend to do this, just like in President Obama years, the first thing the Republicans said to President Obama when he was running for office, what they said, I don't care. I mean, this is on day one. I don't care what he do, we ain't gonna pass it. And they had the House and the Senate during that time. And so it's important to get anything. The president can say what they want to say. It ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen until he got the majority in the House and the majority in the Senate. If you don't have both of those, you can hang it up. I mean, because then you kind of in that balance where, if they want to be nice and join in with the Democrats, then things get passed. So they work deals out. But you best believe those deals mean they're going to cut some other things just to get that one thing passed. So if you want things to flow smoothly, your vote matters, is what I want to say. I leave with the vote matters.
Congressman, I thank you for sharing your thought process about your competition. And I thought that was important for you to bring that out because
yes, sir.
I think we get to the polls and we just see David Robinson II and have no idea what you're about,
right,
how you think.
Yes, sir.
And Joe Wilson, I don't know who Joe Wilson is, but he's been around for 23 years.
Yes.
All I know is when something happened and it gets resolved, Leon Lott show up on the podium, and that means it's law and order.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So all his signs everywhere, and so in South Carolina, I think being in somebody running for Congress in a red state,
right,
as blue representation, there's got to be some type of you got to be a little delusional, right? And I'm not forgive me.
I smile about it because I'm gonna say something with that.
You're going against it's 1-on-5, right? Like it's like
Right, yes.
it's like you on the court and you are at a complete disadvantage, Mr. Robinson.
Right.
Right. And so I just want to understand your mindset and thought process. And I know your son is a big part of the motivation, but let's be clear here, right? You know,
Yes.
this is a big game.
It is.
Going
It
against.
is. Yes, sir.
And I just want to know what your thought process is with that. I know our votes matter, you know, and I'll go there and because you're here, right? And I want to hit you, you know, but
Yes.
I know
Yes.
it's tough, man. I know it's tough.
It is.
So
It's
I
very
just wanna
tough.
Hear, you know, your thought process.
Well,
with that, man.
Well, you know what? I can say this one thing, young lady. I can say this one thing. When I first decided to run, and I can't tell you, just being a constituent, you know, you just get tired of being tired, right? When I say that is, you know, I had the experience of being a single parent. So when a single mother say, my mother as well, I watched, you know, I grew up in a single family home. But I have more so understanding of that raising children and how that feels, and to do it by yourself, right? So what I'm saying is that when we have things that's happening and we need help, sometimes you can sit back at the television screen like I did for many years. I don't know who Joe Wilson was at the time, but I just remember fussing up TV all the time about things going wrong. They need to do something different. And a lot of times you would kind of blame the Democrat. Because you're a Democrat, you don't know. You don't know who's in charge and things like that. You just know you're a Democrat. But when I started understanding more, when I ran for office, this running for office, it gave me the opportunity to not just sit down and yell at the TV all day, you know, and blame everybody. It gave me the opportunity to actually stand up and do something. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, look, I thank God for my son because under the tragedy, what happened to my son, it really pushed me to fight for missing Americans. But then when I jumped in here and said I'm going to do that, I realized it was something even bigger because then you got to be a politician. And, you know, it took me a while to actually accept that. It took me a while to accept that you're a politician, right? So when I was going out to talk to people and I said, yeah, I'm not a politician, I'm just a constituent, they say, man, stop saying that, you are a politician now, you know? And so what happens is, you know, you start understanding what that really means, you know, what it really means to say now you're a politician. Against all odds, some would say that, you know, you're running a red state. I can tell you this, there's a couple things I'm gonna say about that, the facts of that matter. There's no reason why South Carolina is a red state. And the only reason why we're a red state to date is because it's sad to say it might hurt some feelings and ruffle feathers a little, but Democrats don't like to vote. We don't like to vote. And then the other part is, you know, we believe a lot of things that we hear without researching. Social media will come out and say, and some of our celebrities as well, this is the reason why you shouldn't vote. Your vote don't matter. It don't count. But I guarantee you, out of a million years, you'll never hear a conservative anywhere in their spirit to say your vote don't count. It will never happen in a million years because it does count. You have many people who died for our rights to vote. But they know that. They know that. Who you think put those things into our communities to make us feel like our vote don't count? But as long as they keep you believing that, it'll be like we have right now in South Carolina South Carolina State House. A supermajority of Republicans doing free will what they want to do. And so what I'm saying without real checks and balances there. Our votes do count. So I want to say that. I want to say that to many people who are listening, like, you know, look, there's no reason why we're a red state. I can't tell you, we have the numbers. We have more Democrats here than we have Republicans. We're just not, you best believe when it comes to voting, Republicans gonna go out there, rain, shine, sleet, or snow. It could be fire, nails on the ground. They're gonna make sure they're there. It's gonna happen.
That's true.
Because they know they want what they're looking for. They want things to stay the way they want it to stay. So if you ever want change, we got to somehow get together as a community, as a people, everybody. I don't care what color you are, where you're from, if you're a Democrat or whatever, you need to exercise your right to vote. That's just the bottom line. When you sit down in the seat and don't do nothing, like many times I did, and I sat there, I vote every time, don't get me wrong, I'm a voter. It's just that what I'm saying is to get up and actually run for office. I sit there and I complain till my face turn blue until you do something about it yourself. Like I told those people for my son's situation. I'm coming to your back door. I'm coming to your back door, meaning that I'm running for Congress and I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to get these legislations passed. I'm going to get certain things done. So what I say is for those who is say, South Carolina being a red state, things can't happen. I want to also say that I've been on the campaign trail now. God put me in a position to be a people person that I am. I can talk to anybody. And to put that in perspective, talking to people on the campaign trail, I learned a couple of things. I ran to conservatives, independents, Democrats, you name it. And one thing that we all have in one unified voice is the sentiments I heard. I go to the rural areas and they say, politicians don't care about us down here. They don't care what's happening around here. They don't care about our infrastructure. They don't care about schools. Only time we see you guys is during election time, right? And that hurt my feelings because I look what those people are going through and what they're suffering, right? And then I talked to some of these conservatives, real strong Trump supporters too, I probably would change my vote one day, but Democrats don't come talk to us. And so the problem is we're our party, like we're the Bloods and the Crips. You don't know it's red and blue, right? And so what happens is the Bloods and the Crips don't talk to each other. That's what it's almost like with the Democrats and the Republicans. And it shouldn't be that way. And so what I've learned in my campaign trail so far is that, look, go talk to people. So what I did is open up a forum. I do it every Friday at 8:30. As anybody can come. To talk to me directly, ask me any question you want, whatever we can do. Live. Battle live, everybody can hear the question. See the question or whatever. And also go talk to people. And when I did that so far, I had changed a lot of conservative votes. They say, I'm going to vote for you this time. I walk in the street and people yell out, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to vote for you. I'm tired of Joe Wilson. I'm your example. I'm not making this up. It scares me. It scares me because we hear that kind of voice, sound like a conservative voice, real strong. I live in, I don't want to say it that way, but you can hear it in your, make my skin. I'm like, I'm about to get shot in the back or something. But they'll say, hey, look, I'll vote for you. They see my thing on my car, Dave Robinson for Congress, and say, I'm voting for you. I'm tired of, and you hear that because, people just need to hear somebody actually hear what's going on in their community and actually really care. So what I'm saying, again, my whole platform of who I am as a person is all about representing everyone. It's not a party thing. I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to shy away from that. What I'm saying is you have to listen, and because we all have a lot of things coming. We all want more than $7.25 federal minimum wage that's sitting there forever, and the cost of living is going up. We have inflations that's happening. And one thing I want to say real quick with that, for those who say the economy was better under Trump, I had to say this. We can't say the cost of living has gone up, but we got to understand, Trump is a businessman, and they're doing everything they can. He's selling shoes, gold shoes. They making politics out of money. If you really look at what's really going on, they're marketing everything. Money, 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 money. So what's happening is we have to look at the real big picture of what's happening in the country when it comes to our economy. The prices are rising. That's if you listen to what Kamala Harris is talking about, VP Harris is talking about, is the stopping these corporate companies from being able to come in and what they're doing is they're the one price hiking. We say, okay, the economy is doing good because you look at the numbers, perfect. The economy is going great, wonderful, very strong economy. Jobs, got jobs, right? This is happening. But then when you see these companies come in, what they're doing is hiking. They're making record profits. So if you look at your pocketbook, you say, I'm working my butt off, but somebody ain't going nowhere. You're not going nowhere because you're paying more for everyday things. And it's not because of the implementations what's going on in the government. It's because of what's happening in these private sectors. These grocery stores are hiking their prices for no reason. They don't need that money, but they're doing it. So what they're doing is trying to crack down on that and stop this price gouging. When the Hurricane Helene hit here, they made sure they stayed on top of that because these companies believing that those gas stations hike their prices up a little, had to squeeze every little bit of money out your pocket. It got nothing to do with the government. It got something to do with these companies. Also with the fair market, a lot of people trying to buy homes right now. This is what I step in at as a congressman. We're going to stop the Wall Street from coming in and buying up single parent family homes and then sell it back to a person like me and you where you can't afford it. And then next thing you know, you're gonna have to live in an apartment and utilize all your money. Then you really can't buy a house. So all of that stuff is going to stop. But we got to be able to get in the right place to stop the Republicans from implementing these things and allowing the rich buddies to be able to do those things. We have to stop it somewhere, and it's going to have to stop, because if not, we're going to see a lot of homelessness in South Carolina, as much as we see out in Phoenix and some of these other places. But what I want to say is, the economy is one thing that we definitely have to keep fighting for when it comes to our communities and stuff like that. And I think I lost track of another part that I want to go, but that's some of the issues that we have, and I've been hearing from constituents is the not caring what's happening in our district, not caring what happened in our communities, but then they'll blame the Democrats for it somehow. But we, like I tell you, right here in South Carolina, you can't, because we don't have no power. The other part is I'm running for as a Democrat, because I am a Democrat. I believe in democratic values, and I know those things work. I don't believe in sending bailouts and tax breaks for the rich. I do not believe in that. I believe in tax breaks and more stimulus, in a sense, to help out our young entrepreneur programs and entrepreneur folks that want to build business for themselves. And also for our state, for Congressional District 2, and I had offered this before, is to make sure that we're stopping people from coming out from, and there's nothing wrong for immigrants coming to this country. We're a country of immigrants, but stopping immigrants from being able to, being incentivized to live in one community and come into a marginalized community and set up business, and then somehow take our dollars and take those dollars back to their communities. We're going to stop all of that. Yeah. We want to be able to keep people to keep our money into our own communities as well.
Now, Congressman, I'm glad you said that and brought that up. In this community, they just built a 7-Eleven over there.
Oh yeah, yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
The family that runs that store, they don't look like us.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes.
That's in this community.
Right.
But we watched a red state, Georgia, turn into a blue state, and so we believe in you. We believe that in all your values and what you believe.
Yes.
But it's just hard, right, to imagine that that a Democrat can defeat the gang that's been here in the Bible Belt, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, before we close this out, man, we like you. We want to vote for you.
Yeah, I hope so. Right? Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Can you just tell us what you want us to do, and to support you immediately, what you want us to know to support you immediately? That'd be fantastic.
Well, for me, I think the most important thing right now for this election, here we got 20 days left in this election. I think that word of mouth is everything. I've learned that from business to you name it. I'll give a quick example. I need to get the word out for my son. You know his story. That didn't come easy. It took 3 hard months to push hard to get my son's story out there. And I said this thing, and I know God gave it to me. When lights and camera go off, I'm going to be there. When the interests of people fade away, I'm going to be there. In other words, I'm going to be there for my son. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that his story just don't die, right? And the way I was able to do that, when now the news media is gone, because the first thing they look for ratings and say, hey, what's new? Every time they talk to me now, what's new? You got any new updates? No. If not, they're not going to air you, right? And so what I ask people to do is word of mouth, spread my son's name, tell people about his story, and that keeps it going. And believe it or not, it's easy to pull 12,000 people about my son's case, right? Easy in one post. So what I'm saying is the word of mouth part is the most powerful tool we have. It's bigger than what we see on television commercials, to you name it. So I think for this campaign, Dave Ross and Congress, I think people should know, just watch some of my videos and watch who I am as a person. Look at what I'm doing for my son to see I am a fighter. I'm not scared of people. I'm not scared of law enforcement. If I see something wrong, I'm going to speak about it. But what I'm saying is I'm a person who's a fighter and definitely won't give up on my community and who I am, or our state as well. If I see something wrong, I'm definitely going to say something about it. I feel that if everybody can take a time and educate each other to say, hey, you know what? This is no reason for us. We have the numbers. There's no way we should have this being a blue state. You cannot, again, and you got to educate everyone and tell them this, you cannot blame a Democrat for it, because we didn't have power since the 90s. Just tell them to look that up. Democrats do not make any laws for South Carolina. None, period. I mean, we make them, but we're dependent on the Republicans to pass them because they have the super majority since the 90s. And so what I'm saying is, if anything go wrong, you cannot blame the Democrats. But you have a Democrat who's here to fight, to do some things different. We get complacent, we get used to things a certain way, say, oh yeah, it's not bad. It's not. No, you just got complacent. It can get better. Things can get a whole lot better. You just got to know what those things are, what you're asking for. It's no reason why we're here it is in 2024 with all the technology we have. I'm using an example. You see what Helene done. A lot of people's going out. We got lucky because we live on the side of town, where I live on the side of town where our electricity didn't go out.
Same.
But my mother's side of town, they ain't had no electricity for almost a week, right? And this is 2024. But we got a representative who's representing our district who don't want to approve to fight for our infrastructure, upgrades to our infrastructure. There's no way that we're here in 2024, we're still relying on telephone poles. That is something back in the day, way before y'all time. I know it was back in my time when they had a thing called Telegram. They was communicating, tapping on those little thing. That's where power lines came from. Why are we still utilizing power lines? Morse code, there you go. But, you know, here it is 2024. Power lines are buried underground. These are infrastructure changes that we need. They don't care about where's the money going for federal dollars for that. You know what I'm saying? We should not be losing electricity from a bad thunderstorm. You get what I'm saying? And losing our food and things like that. It costs us a lot of money. Economy already bad, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to the cost of living. It's already cost us a lot of money, but now we got to buy new food because our food is spoiling in the fridge. The misinformation that we're starting to hear. My sister worked for FEMA. I used to work for FEMA. I'm using an example. I have been working hurricanes. I've worked Katrina. I've seen what FEMA can do for the American people. And those things are there. But you have legislatures right now putting out false information, for instance. Oh, FEMA's not there. My sister was really upset about it. She's there, but people not coming because they have information saying, oh, they only give you $700 and something. I mean, there's all kind of crazy stuff they talking. It is a $700 something to help you out while you fill out this paperwork to get all the rest stuff, but it's a temporary thing now. It's almost like a stimulus. I'm giving you a stimulus now for you to fill out this paperwork to get the benefits that you're looking for. And so the official stuff. But the misinformation is out there because they know they can capitalize on people who already have a suspicion about the government. So when you have a suspicion about the government, just play on that and people believe it. So again, for those who want to support my campaign, they can visit davidrobertsforcongress.com. They can, like I said, make sure you tell everybody, hey, get out there and vote for this man because he's going to make sure he's fighting for you. We don't have to do the same thing for 23 years expecting a different results. Joe Wilson, I guarantee you tomorrow will come out and hear some things I'm saying. Yes, I've got it right here, the plan to do that. Man, it took you 23 years to do this right now.
What is your plan to improve opportunities and resources for kids so that we can not only just increase our rating in the school systems, but we can actually stop the brain drain when people graduate from colleges in South Carolina and they don't see the opportunities here? What is your plan for that? That's my question to you.
Well, I'm going to start off with, if I can look at you or him, I'm not sure.
You can look at him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because if I ask a question, I'm looking at the young lady. But, you know, I want to start off here, though. That's passionate for me, too. And the reason why it's passionate for me, because I can't tell you, and I'll be straight up honest, and it ain't going to sound pretty either. I'm still, this on record?
You still on record?
Okay, good.
I have one burning question.
Yes. But the thing is, for me, is, you know, I want to start off like this. I want to start off just like this, and then I'm going to go back to my history real quick so I can explain that, answer that question for you. Now, first off, I want to say I believe in term limits. I'm going to say I have to say this for a reason. I'm saying that for a reason. I believe in term limits because what happens is, though a politician come in office, and they may mean the best thing for the people, but once you're in there for so many years, it stopped becoming about the people. It started to become about you because you start raising your kids. You get a name recognition. You build a dynasty for yourself. I see politicians, I'm going to say no names right now, just have a name recognition. Everybody know who this person is. They feel like they own that district. They're just that name, that brand. It should never be that way when it comes to representing people, ever. And so, yes, it should never be that way. So I was saying that first for a reason. because when I was growing up, and you probably what I get when I come from when I say this, when I was growing up, I went to C.A. Johnson High School. I know y'all probably heard of the school and everything else.
Yeah.
But I was in that district, in Richland School District 1. And everybody know that school is probably to this day is the worst district you can attend. And when I say when it comes worse, and not meaning that people are bad or things like that, what I'm saying is the worst in funding for that district when it comes to education. And the problem I have seen when I was young, brilliant. I went to Lion Street Elementary School. I went to Watkins Middle School. I went to Carver. And I remember back then they thought I was this genius because they was kind of pushing me up. A very smart kid and all the stuff. I did very well in school growing up. And when I got to C.A. Johnson, ninth grade year, I'll take this back. I went to W.A. Perry. And when I was doing very well in school, but I ended up going to, my mother she used to move a lot, you know. She had to a lot of occasions, but we ended up going to E.L. Wright. It was a predominantly white school then. I was the only black person in my class, this one back then, right? And when I went to that school, no matter how many straight A's I made, some B's here and there, they said, you're way behind. Way behind. You're far behind the school. And what happened was I found that what's happening in Richland School District 1, and it's depending on what your school is, you was getting hand-me-down books from their books. Like they finished using this book, they done for that year, they pass it down to C.A. Johnson or the schools in Richland County 1. So you were always a year behind. Always a year behind. And those are things that have been going on here in Columbia. And so that bothered me ever since I was a little kid. That's why I remember it like it was yesterday. It bothered me. It always bothered me. So graduated from C.A. Johnson High School, I have and it's sad to say, looked at my children and say, I want to make sure they go to a school where they're going to put computers there for them to learn better. And so we should drive our children to school because, they had a program where you can take your kids to school. As long as you take a school bus, not going to do it. You can take them to whatever school you want to. And what I'm saying is what's happening today is the same thing when it comes to our education. I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you was in here or not, but we have $800 million and some for federal dollars coming to just Congressional District 2, right, for our education, for our schools this year. And that money is not being utilized the correct way. What Republicans have been doing is creating these we have STEM programs, which is great to help people realize their dreams and things like that. We have these programs there, but they also have these voucher programs they came up with, and those voucher programs are supposed to be designed for schools like the schools I come from to be able to get programs and certain little things that educational needs. But we've been finding out that we're using those voucher programs for private schools and schools on the other side of the district. And they have never been going to our Richland County schools for them to benefit. And also we have STEM programs. I'm using an example like in Congressional District 2 is part of my districts, Lexington, Aiken County, Richland County, mostly Richland, Orangeburg County, the west side of Orangeburg, and Barnwell County. And when you go down to Aiken County, for instance, I'm using an example, we have SRS, this is Savannah River site. Everybody knows that's where they make the nuclear bombs and things in the United States. But anyway, that's a big economy for the economy down there, right? And then also they have these programs where new scientists have to come in and, from colleges and things like that to be a part of these programs they have there to help, new development and things that go, all these little different projects that happen
And
there.
this is why these STEM programs are so important.
It is important, but I'm telling you the problem with that to me.
Yeah.
But we have some disparities in that STEM program that I'm talking about, I'm getting ready to go to.
Yes.
Now, the STEM program sound good on the surface because what it does is have these programs to, for instance, let's say some of the HBCUs can utilize these STEM programs to access schools like USC to get into the SRS for those programs into science so they can do that hiring pool from students that way.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, we got that money. The DOE, the Department of Energy, is actually have their own money that's going down into SRS. SRS is government, and they have that certain amount of funding that is put towards education, to schools, to get scientists ready to come get when they come out of college, get them jobs into SRS, right? So it kind of circles around. But they have those STEM programs there that's supposed to be there because they know that people will start raising concern about disparities. Why USC get these contracts? They have USC handling those are big schools, USC, Clemson. Welcome to the HBCUs. So they say, oh, we got these STEM programs. They sound good on the surface, like I said, it does help. But why these HBCUs don't have their own STEM programs? Why we have to rely on another school for these programs? And so what's end up happening is we start looking at the money that's actually going to help HBCU to develop their own programs. They don't have to worry about, I ain't talking about STEM programs, their own programs to teach their students to be scientists and things like that. The money's not getting there. HBCUs is only receiving 10 to 25% of that money. The rest of it going to USC, for instance.
To PWIs.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that's the kind of things that I'm going to be talking about.
That you want to bring.
Right. I'm going to get that. No, we're going to have to renegotiate that right there. We definitely going to do it. Now, I can't say, and I'm not going to put names again, but there's only 2 representatives right now, one of which is the one I'm running against, who agree with a lot of things that's happening in SRS right now. I go through and I'll be honest with you, I agree with some of the funding that's going on with the projects to keep this country safe, and also the cleanup that's going down in the nuclear plants down there. I get that part. But why are you in agreement when it comes to Black American marginalized communities that have depended on HBCUs for the education? Why are you in agreement with this kind of funding not working totally for the HBCUs? Kind of equal playing field. I get it. USC is a big school, but so is Allen University, and Benedict is one of the oldest schools here in the state. So I'm just saying.
That's my alumni.
So what I'm saying is why these you don't trust them with the money. So I have this issue with that when I start looking deep into things. I'm saying no. We got to do something else different.
Absolutely.
Then I'm talking a lot about education. You asked for it. So when it comes to
I know I was doing.
Oh yes, sir. When it comes to our schools, for our students, we're in the world of AI and renewable energies, right? It's automatic. I don't care what nobody says. We're going there. We're already there.
We're already here.
I have to write a lot of speeches, and guess who's writing my speech for me until I tweak it out?
AI.
That's right. I use and so when I'm in a rush and I have to put a speech together, where I get a speech done in 5 minutes, and I can tweak it out real quick and
talk about it.
And so what I'm saying is, we going there. Technology is there, and we already have a competition. We say on the world market when it comes to education. We have a competition with China. They're doing their thing.
30-year plan.
And
that
so,
scares me.
Right. And so what I'm saying is we have to make sure that we're doing things that we somehow fell from our school. I was growing up, we still have some of that small things, but they're teaching the wrong things. I don't know if y'all heard of Lynn Haven and some of these other little programs they have. When I was in school, I said like this, we used to have to go to shop classes. When I was a boy, we learned how to fix cars. We had a whole shop and everything, fixing cars. Right, cutting wood and making planners, all kind of stuff. I mean, in school, this is part of the grade. You get a grade for this stuff. Support my campaign to find out how you can support my campaign and how you can find me. Go to DaveRobsonForCongress.com. Definitely, of course, any campaign, we need funding to be able to get the word out. At this point, 20 days left. I'm relying on you as a constituent here in South Carolina to spread the word that I'm running. Again, you can follow me on social media, all my social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. But I'll stop with Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Go to David Robinson for Congress, David Robinson II for Congress. When it comes to Twitter, it's going to be Vote David 2024. You can follow me on those social media platforms. Always remember that every Friday at 8:30 p.m. I'm doing a podcast every Friday. You can learn more about what I stand for, what I plan to do, and also you can ask questions and it'll be on live right there for you. but definitely want to make sure that we're winning because I'm standing up for our democracy, standing up for women's reproductive liberties. Also, I'm standing up for quality education in every zip code, and I say every zip code because I mean that. We're not going to leave any community or especially our rural and our marginalized communities behind. And also, we're standing up for our infrastructure. We saw what happened with Hurricane Helene. We should get those things done, and also fighting to make sure our costs of prescription and healthcare come down. We're not just doing for insulin for $35 cap. We're going to do that for all the medication and for people that actually need it. Again, you can follow DaveRobinson for Congress.com. And I would love your help, and I love your vote on November 5th.